This is Opinion City, where pro wrestling gets the conversation it deserves. Real voices, real opinions, live every Sunday.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of the Opinion City podcast. I am your host, King Ralph. Parmesan is off for the week. He's at a cheese festival, so we'll excuse him for the weekend. But I will be hosting a conversation today on the state of independent wrestling, which is indie wrestling is a super hot topic right now for a lot of reasons. And so to talk about that today, my special guest, and just a quick programming note, Danny Lee is not able to join us today, which we will miss having her on the show, but do not worry. She will be back eventually. We will have her on the show. But my guest for today, if you have been watching our channel, if you have been following along with our live interviews, if you have been checking out brand new episodes of The List, which another brand new episode comes out this coming Wednesday, you will recognize our guest. He is the newest member of our broadcast team, and we are super excited once again to have Ben F. Silverio with us. Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, you know, it's interesting because when you think about like independent wrestling, so I know when I think about independent wrestling, one of the people I think about is Ben F. Silverio, because you are a fan of a lot of wrestling, but I feel like indie wrestling is really where your home is.
Yeah, when I was growing up on the mean streets of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the birthplace of Extreme.
Yep.
I spent a lot of time going to concerts, like shows in basements, shows in rundown warehouses, shows in skate parks under overpasses. And I really love that punk rock DIY feel of a live experience. And as I got older, I found that in independent wrestling. So, that's something that's always appealed to me, and that continues to appeal to me to this day.
And that's something that's really interesting that you mentioned, going to concerts like that in Philly and then, getting that experience at wrestling shows, because Philadelphia right now is such a hotbed of independent wrestling. You have so many great shows going on. But again, when you look at these shows, a lot of them really have that feel because it seems like they go out of their way to create that vibe with their shows.
Absolutely. One promotion that I'd love to spotlight right now is a Labor of Love, based here in Philadelphia. They've had some of the most interesting shows I've ever attended, because like random parking lots, like salvage, like thrifty type stores, but then also this coming week they're doing a show at National Mechanics in Old City, which I didn't even know had a second floor.
Yeah.
So they're definitely picking unique venues, and that definitely adds to the punk rock appeal of a place like a Labor of Love.
Not to get too far on a tangent here, but they did a show in Philly at a small art museum that used to be a moratorium. Like it's insane. The places that they find in the city of Philadelphia to have shows. So we're going to be talking a lot about where indie wrestling stands today as it is. So I'm gonna give you these two statements, and I just want a yes or no answer as to whether you agree with these statements or not. The first one is indie wrestling feels both healthier and more chaotic than ever.
Agree.
Okay. And more eyes, more options, more problems. It's a tough one.
It is a tough one. I'm inclined to lean towards agree, but I don't want to say more problems. I want to say different problems.
Okay. I like it. So we will be talking about all different kinds of aspects of indie wrestling today: the money, the talent, social media, sustainability, all of that. But let's kind of start out looking at indie wrestling as it is today, what would you say qualifies as indie wrestling in 2026?
Well, essentially, I think the thing that it comes down to is TV.
Mhm.
The promotions that don't have major TV contracts that run, in smaller venues are the ones that I classify as indies.
Mhm.
So, like, obviously, NWA is a big name,
Mhm.
but they don't really have the TV power anymore.
Right.
So it's like, while they may be a bigger name in the world of wrestling, I think they're on that cusp of like, are they almost an indie now?
Mhm.
But there are also promotions under the NWA banner that are certainly indie.
Sure.
So like there are promotions in smaller markets. There are promotions like Championship Wrestling from Hollywood that are associated
Mhm.
with NWA, but aren't
Mhm.
necessarily an NWA product. But also, streaming has changed the game for indies as well. So, you could have a smaller indie in Ohio, for example,
Mhm.
but they get a ton of views on streaming. So while they may not be national or global entities, they can still have a bigger fan base than, say, a wrestling promotion in Phoenix, Arizona.
Sure, which is interesting, bringing the whole aspect of streaming into it, because you have what I would classify as like your super indies, like a
Mhm.
GCW that is still very much on the independent level, but on a much bigger scale, and
Right.
and they're streaming on like Thriller or Triller, and then you have what I would consider a local promotion, like something like Labor of Love. Now they're streaming on Triller as well. Like
Yeah.
you, so there's all these opportunities with the streaming era that indies maybe have never had the chance at before. You have IWTV, which you know hundreds of promotions, thousands of hours of content from all over the world, and so it's like it's like this brand new resource that everybody can tap into.
Mhm. Absolutely. Even, New Japan Pro Wrestling, whenever they come to America, it's obviously, it's a big deal because it's the largest wrestling promotion in Japan, but there are a ton of wrestling fans in America that aren't as familiar with New Japan. Maybe they know someone here and there because they
Mhm.
were on AEW, but, they're doing a show in Trenton at the end of the month, and I don't think that show is sold out, but it's gonna be a great show. I
Mhm.
mean, Andrade El Idolo is on the card. There's a lot of really great talent on that card. But for someone who is just familiar with, like, the quote unquote "big 2" of America,
Mhm.
New Japan might be a smaller, promotion to them, even
Mhm.
though it's one of the biggest in the world.
Yeah, which is interesting because you talk about like Andrade being on that show, and so that kind of brings the question to mind: Are the Indies a stepping stone, or are the Indies becoming a destination? Because you look at a guy like Matt Cardona,
Mhm.
who made quite the career on the Indies, and it was almost like things were much better for him on the indies. Now, obviously, he got himself, back into WWE, and that's great. I mean, that's on the road with his wife, making the money. Like you're never gonna say like that's you don't pass up an opportunity like that when it's
Right.
given to you again, or you earn it again. But are we? Do you see indies more as a stepping stone, or do you think to a lot of people that's where they want to go?
I think nowadays it is destination. Like, obviously, you want the big contract, you want the big money, you wanna
Mhm.
be able to make, a living wage. But because of how popular independent wrestling has become over the past 10 years, it's possible to make a living wage if you're willing to put the work in. You have people like Effie who have made the indies their home for the longest time. I mean,
Mhm.
before Danhausen got signed to AEW, he was everywhere all the time. From Indiana to Chicago to Los Angeles, you could see Danhausen on a show every weekend, essentially, at that point.
Mhm.
So I think it is possible to make a living doing the indies, and Matt Cardona is the example. You know, when
Mhm.
you put in the work that Cardona and even Brian Myers put in, it's possible. It's just a little harder to do.
Sure.
But, you know, the prototype for that now, I think, would be someone like, Shotzi Blackheart or maybe Donovan Dijak,
Mhm.
who previously were employed at WWE, but then were let go. Um, they both have massive presence on the indies right now.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm not their accountant, but it seems like they're getting compensated quite fairly. And they're everywhere also.
Mhm.
So, I think the independence has become this place where people want to be,
Mhm.
but also, it is kind of like a launch pad in a way, in that your career can move in a number of different directions after starting out on the indies.
Mhm. So, two things with that. One, talking about Matt Cardona being an example, you look at somebody like Colt Cabana, who had a disastrous WWE run, not his fault. I mean,
Right.
they really didn't do anything with him, but he went on and created himself a small empire on the
Mhm.
indies, and he said, I'm making more money now than I would have then at WWE, but it's putting in that hard work. You
Mhm.
have to really, the indies, you have to really work at it. um, but again, looking at somebody like a Matt Cardona, um, the lines between an indie wrestler and a TV ready wrestler are kind of being blurred, because you look at AEW. Like, indie wrestling has become a style that is considered an alternative to the quote unquote WWE style, and it
Mhm.
seems like that's something that a company like AEW has openly embraced as, come and wrestle your style here.
Yeah, to a degree, I think I would agree with that. But when you have pioneers of the indie style,
Mhm.
main eventing WWE shows like Seth Rollins and the Motor City Machine Guns, you
Mhm.
know, I think WWE has become more receptive of that style over the years. I mean, sure, Sami Zayn still doesn't have a world title, but people are still enthralled every time Sami steps into the ring. You
Sure.
know, so I think it's taken WWE a while, but I think they're embracing it more in this era of Shawn Michaels running NXT
Mhm.
than in the past. But AEW certainly does very little to change their acts from indie to TV, which is great, you know, in a number of cases, you know. Someone like Wheeler Yuta, you know, isn't really changed very much by putting him on TV on AEW. You know,
Mhm.
Daniel Garcia the same way. I mean, Danhausen, you know, they didn't do
Yeah.
anything to change Danhausen. Well, what would have happened to Danhausen if he went to WWE under the previous regime? You know, so
Mhm.
yes, it is great that a lot of indie wrestlers now can cultivate this character and this act that has become battle tested, fan
Mhm.
favorited, and AEW sees that and is just like, yeah, let's keep that and just give it a bigger platform.
Yeah, and you can look at AEW and you can look at TNA, because you see AEW and TNA wrestlers on indie shows all the time.
Mhm.
So it's like, when you have someone that's getting that exposure in the indie world as well as being on TV, it only seems like smart business to say, hey, this is working. Why mess with it?
Yeah, and I think WWE's steps in that direction include the WWE ID program, which I know a lot of people are very
Mhm.
critical of.
I was
And,
going
you
to
know.
ask you about that, because I had a conversation with someone not too long ago,
Mhm.
who knows the independent world, and they were just their opinion, quite frankly, was WWID has ruined independent wrestling. Like, they were very much, like, really against it.
Yeah. You know, I I'm not against it. I thought that it was, I don't wanna say innovative, because you know, it doesn't, it shouldn't be innovative to nurture talent.
Mhm.
Right, to pay it forward in a way, to give back to the community that's given so much to to fuel the bigger machine, right?
Mhm.
So here's my opinion on it. Like when WWE ID was first announced, I was skeptical, but after talking to a number of WWE ID talent, at WrestleMania week last year, I spoke to Sean Legacy, I spoke to Jordan Oasis, I spoke to Jack Cartwheel briefly, and I spoke to Marshall Mathers. Or sorry, Marcus Mathers.
Mm.
I spoke to them about the program, and it to me it sounds like WWE seeing a talent and being like, oh, there's something more here. Why don't
Mm.
it? Why don't we try to give them what they need to be more the more that we see? So
Sure.
it's almost like a scholarship program, like an internship, really,
Mhm.
where you can be given access to more resources so that you can grow your craft.
Sure.
Um, Marcus was very specific in saying that it was a team vibe, like
Mhm.
that first class of ID talent was like one big team where like, oh, we all got ID'd and we want to improve. Even though they were pitted against each other in matches and things like that, as we're seeing on Evolve on Tubi, there's an aspect of competition there, but like
Mhm.
I think overall it's WWE taking an interest and investing in the future. Now, considering WWE's track record, the intentions may be more nefarious than we see, but
Sure.
after speaking to people that were in the program, I think they find it more helpful than hurtful.
Mm.
There's this huge
Okay.
conversation when NXT UK started that they were kind of draining the swamp
Mhm.
of all
And
of
that's
these
and that's the
talent.
that's the general consensus between a lot of, your UK indie wrestlers, the
Mm.
people that were on the UK indie scene at the time.
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely saw that happening, but what I also saw were a number of talents stepping up to fill the void. Like I know a lot of the people who got signed to NXT UK were people that were running promotions, and that was definitely more difficult to see some of those promotions fall to the wayside
Mhm.
as their promoters got more busy with WWE, and only a certain number of promotions were able to like stay afloat. But one thing that my very good friend Bobby Hoffman out of Chicago, Illinois, producer of the Not Your Demographic podcast,
Oh,
one thing
shout
he's
out.
always told, yeah, great podcast. They Bobby told me support the wrestler, not the promotion.
Mm.
And I understand that supporting promotions is important because that's where the wrestlers go to wrestle and be themselves and all that stuff. But, I've never really subscribed to this tribalism of a promotion. I'm
Mhm.
not gonna pick a side between WWE and AEW. There are wrestlers in both promotions that I love watching, so even though some of the European promotions may have suffered a bit from NXT UK, I think their wrestlers became stronger and
Mm.
stood out more. I mean, Progress champion Cara Noir, you know, uh I don't think people would have seen him to the degree that they saw him had the previous like class of indie wrestlers from the area were cycled out.
Mhm.
And that's how indie wrestling survives, right? By a class cycling out for more people to step up.
Mhm.
You with WWE ID, you had Kylie Ray shining as the first WWE ID women's champion.
Mm.
Now I will say that it was a little disproportional that there were only 3 women in the first class of WWE ID, and that the men certainly get a shine more than the women on most weeks. But uh with Kylie Ray no longer signing with WWE ID,
Mhm.
mostly because she's out with having another baby.
Sure.
You have Laney Luck stepping in now as the WWE ID Women's Champion. And
Mhm.
Lainey is someone that I've been following since 2017. She has been grinding in the Chicago and Midwest Indies for years, and she has probably been one of the most improved wrestlers that I've been following for a number of years. Like, and so I'm glad to see her get this platform now. That I'm not saying that Kylie Ray had to be cycled out in order for Lainey to succeed, but Kylie paved the way so that Lainey could step up.
Mhm.
And I think that's really one of the biggest things about independent wrestling is that a lot of these people like Colt Cabana, like Matt Cardona, they are the foundation, but then you have other people like Matt Mako or you know like Harleen Lopez, who are stepping up and showing out whenever they get the opportunity.
Mhm. Yeah, it's definitely independent wrestling makes it, I think, easier to support the wrestler because you see a wrestler at one promotion, and if they're the kind of person that is consistently hustling and going everywhere, we good friend of the show, the Italian Tank, has been showing up everywhere with South
Mhm.
Philly's finest, really putting in the work. A guy like another friend of the show, Brother Bedlam, is just going everywhere that he can possibly go to get every opportunity that he can. And so that gives you so much more of an opportunity to really kind of support the indie wrestler while still supporting promotions. Obviously,
Sure.
we love supporting promotions because there are, and we'll talk about some, but there are a lot of really great promotions out there that do a lot of really great stuff. But it's when you support WWE or AEW, it's a whole different level with supporting a wrestler in WWE or AEW than it is supporting one on the independent scene.
Hmm. Definitely. And you mentioned the idea of super indies
Mhm.
earlier, and there were a number of them pre-pandemic that were just thriving, and that was the era where we would see like Penta and Ray Phoenix and Keith Lee and the former Cameron Grimes, Trevor Lee, Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, like all of these people who now people know who they are because they have been on global
Mhm.
television on AEW and WWE. But from 2017 until the lockdown portion of the pandemic, you know, independent wrestling was thriving in such a huge way where you'd see all of these stars at in any given city around across the country.
Mhm.
And then there was obviously the lockdown period did cause a lull for everybody in every
Sure,
industry. But
sure.
then bouncing back from that, you had a whole other class emerge, like from the GCW wrestling bubble, you got a bunch of people that came out of there that went on to AEW Dark, that went on to
Mhm.
NXT, you know. So it is kind of like a school system in a way where you're graduating high school into college and then
Mhm.
college into masters or graduate school and things like that.
Yeah.
So I mean the idea of the super indie now is a little bit harder to define in my opinion because there's so much good talent everywhere.
Mhm.
I mentioned Phoenix, Arizona earlier. And I was at a show in Phoenix for my friend Warwick Johnson's bachelor party, and we went
Mhm.
to I wanna okay, yeah, it was Arizona Wrestling Federation.
Oh, okay.
Very small promotion, but there was a number of great talent there. The reason why we went was because Cora Jade was on the show.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Um, but I believe this is the home promotion for Brittany Brooks as well.
Oh, okay.
And so someone
Mm.
like Brittany Brooks, who is blowing up right now,
Mm.
having started somewhere like this, that just goes to show that even the like C tier markets of pro wrestling can get big talent. you never know who you're going to find on these shows. So it's like, sure, yes, Super Indies used to book matches like the Young Bucks versus like I guess the equivalent now would be like Bang and Matthews.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
you'd get matches like that in Chicago, in New York, in LA every weekend with just top tier talent up and down the card. But
Mhm.
now I think the talent is a little bit more spread out. So you can find super indie level shows anywhere if you know where to look. And it's that that era of those crazy cards. Like I was in Chicago during that.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I was very lucky that we had people like Penta and Phoenix come up all the time to AAW, to freelance wrestling, to
Mhm.
warrior wrestling, which became so huge. Talk about super indie. I mean, their first show that I went to was post all all out, and Jordan Grace was on that show, Rey Mysterio was on that show.
Yeah.
The Axiom, prior to putting on the mask, he was on that show with his partner from Team White Wolf, and they tore the house down. And they were just two dudes from Spain that we hadn't really heard of before.
Mhm.
So I think super indie is almost like a, I don't want to say outdated, because we certainly still have places like GCW. They'll present these like banger all-star cards,
Mhm.
but I think that now is a great time for undiscovered talent to really get a
Mhm.
spotlight.
Absolutely. One of my favorite examples of the kind of pre-pandemic, post-pandemic situation. You look at a company and talking about super indies, and they wrestled in one place and one place only, and they could be considered. I would consider them a super indie. Look at PWG.
Yeah,
I mean, that brought us Kevin Steen and El Generico. They are
yeah.
two pillars that built that house.
Mhm.
And I can remember. I remember a time in wrestling, and I really, you know, this was such an exciting time to be an indie fan when you had all these top name indie talents, and you're saying, okay, so are they going to go to King of Trios or are they going to be at Battle of Los Angeles? Because as
Mm,
soon as you saw somebody booked for one or the other, you're like, oh, well, that means that so and so is not going to be at Trios, or so and
yeah.
so is not going to be at, but it was it was such a good time to be a fan of the indies when you had companies like that were just putting on these amazing events where they were quite literally getting talent from all over the world. And
Yeah.
now we come to your post pandemic time where we live in a world where neither of those organizations even exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah. Another promotion that comes to mind is Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore.
Oh.
Now, Tommy is very
Mm.
busy doing other things now,
Yeah.
but he used to have, all-star cards all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, Young Bucks versus Hardys, I at the ECW arena, I believe.
Mhm.
Which then led to Young Bucks versus the Dudleys at New England Pro Wrestling, Wrestling Under the Stars,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I consider myself so lucky that I got to see matches like those
Mhm.
during those times. I mean, like Jerry the King Lawler versus Kevin Steen in a pile driver match.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, come on.
Like that's, you couldn't get that anywhere on TV at the
Mhm.
time, you
No.
know. And I mean, like, not that I need to see Jerry Lawler wrestle again, but it's just like the name value,
Mhm.
his history in the business, past and present colliding. That was a big staple of the super indie of that era, I think.
Mhm.
And while that may be fewer and far between now, I think it still exists thanks to people like Cheeseburger,
Oh yeah.
who
Hmm.
is giving back to the community that gave him so much. There are so many great wrestlers that are contemporaries of Steen and Generico who have gone on to teach the next generation. I mean, Pete Dunne has a wrestling school now. You have Sean Spears and Tyler Breeze with their wrestling school. God, and I mean the WWE ID has ID'd a number of these schools that are training these next generation talent, like the Nightmare Factory, Seth Rollins School in Iowa. So
Reality of wrestling,
no, exactly, that's another
stuff like that.
huge one.
Hmm.
Stuff like that where these incredible talent that we grew up with are now learning from those people.
Hmm.
In your interview with Bear Bronson, he talked about how his students didn't know who Terry Funk was.
Yeah.
But luckily now we have Bear Bronson to tell those kids who Terry
Hmm.
Funk is.
Yeah.
Because obviously they need to know about Chainsaw Charlie. Um,
Mhm.
so it's great that we had that era of the super indie. But now with these young kids coming up today, they have a fountain of knowledge to drink from thanks to these wrestlers that are willing to give back in such a big way.
Absolutely. And it's a guy like Bear Bronson is a really interesting example because here you have somebody that went from a student to a trainer to an indie wrestler to someone who, has now signed with TNA. And you see that whole progression. So when you look at like the life of an indie wrestler, the life of an indie wrestling career, he's really hit all the major spots along the way.
Yeah, in such short amount of time too. Bear is a young guy,
Hmm.
comparatively in this business. So, I think sky's the limit for him and where he's going. Trust the system, you
Yeah.
know, but also trust the independent system because the thing about the indies is that it finds a way to continuously grow and change and evolve. We may not have evolve anymore on an independent level,
Hmm.
but the things that we took away from evolve, I think are still very much present. In the sense that indies can reach new levels that we wouldn't have expected before.
Hmm.
Evolve was on the WWE network. They streamed their anniversary show from the ECW arena live on
Yeah.
the WWE network,
Yeah.
and you had someone like Paul Heyman show up and spotlight the talent of tomorrow from
Mhm.
Evolve. And I know that Evolve has now become a WWE brand, but in a way they're still elevating independent talent through the WWE ID program. I mean, Aaron Rourke, the dime piece,
Mhm.
the evil gay. He is, I think, one of the best talents to come out of the independents in the past 10 years. He's so different.
Mhm.
There was a great post that I saw on X this past week of his move set and how he's paying homage to the WWE divas.
Oh my, yeah.
um
Nice.
and it's great to see how someone can stand out in a place where traditionally people like him didn't really appear.
Yeah.
You had caricatures of LGBTQ culture, but
Mhm.
never actual representation. So I think having Aaron Rourke a part of this program is a huge step. you know uh would it be great if we signed more people that
Mhm.
were like him and are in his community? Yeah, it would be great. But baby steps for evolution, right? Like
Well,
you
and you mentioned Effie, and
yeah,
so look at it. Look at a guy like Effie, and look at what Effie's Big Gay Brunch has become. It's become the new Joey Janela's Spring Break. It is like a
yeah.
destination show,
Mhm.
WrestleMania week every year.
Oh yeah.
and it's a bbig spotlight for a lot of the talent in that community.
Yeah, it's great. I had the privilege of being in the audience for this show called Pride and Joy during Pride weekend in Chicago pre-pandemic. It was put on by a promotion called Rise. They
Oh
booked
yeah.
yeah, they predominantly booked female talent
Hmm.
as like a developmental system almost for Shimmer.
Yes.
But they had this LGBTQ show, and it was just so great to see all of these talents like Nyla Rose and Sunny Kiss. Shotzi Blackheart was on the show, Effie. There's a ton of people that got a spotlight on that show that are names that you see all over the indies now.
Hmm.
And it's great to see representation like that. Kitsune wrestling in California that focused on Japanese and Japanese inspired wrestling.
I
You
loved
know,
that promotion.
it was so great. Sending out all the love to Kitsune and their promoters, because
Absolutely.
they're taking a break right now, but like hopefully they come back stronger than
Hmm.
ever. Their representation is such an important thing, and the fact that it's now being embraced, by so many different aspects of entertainment. It's not enough. We need more of it for sure.
Hmm.
I mean, you have a show like For the Culture every year during WrestleMania week,
Yeah.
which is another destination show, and we should be having more shows like that.
It shouldn't just be a WrestleMania week thing. We should be
Exactly.
talking about that more as part of the normative of indie wrestling rather
A-
than just highlighting one show during 1 week of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not hard to book more than one women's match on a card.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
this is a universal problem in wrestling. Like where a women's match is slotted for that time slot every week on a certain show, but
Hmm.
it's easy to book an equal amount of women as men. you
Sure.
know uh pro wrestling has a lot to learn still, but we've come a long way,
Hmm.
and the indies is really where that goes to thrive, I think. Because without things like that, we wouldn't have things like For the Culture and Big Gay Brunch and all those things.
Yeah.
So hopefully, the bigger promotions take notice, and I think they have to a certain degree. They just could do better.
Sure. Sure. So we're going to take a break for a moment.
Mm.
All right, let's try this again.
Okay.
So we're gonna take a break for a moment because we have some comments that there's a really interesting question, but I just wanted to say I can remember I worked with a small promotion in a tiny little town in the middle of Pennsylvania back in, like, I don't know, it had to be the late 1990s, the very early 2000s, and I can remember the start of the career of one Nyla Rose on
Mm.
one of our shows, and just to like to see Nyla Rose on the big stage and think back to those moments when it's like the very start of something. You're like, wow, it it gives you more of, I think it gives you more of an investment when you see somebody that you've followed make it big. But we had two comments I wanted to highlight. One, our own Parmesan hopped in to say that he remembers going to a House of Hardcore show right before the Hardys returned to WWE. They faced both
Mhm.
the Spirit Squad and then Bully and Dreamer. They did put on some banger matches there. I do remember
Yeah.
we saw a House of Hardcore show where the main event was Matt Hardy and Bully Ray, and basically
Mhm.
every member, every person in the Broken Universe was there, including Vanguard One flying around
Yeah.
the building. Joey Styles was there. The Sandman was there. It was like it was an insane it was an insane performance they put on. Just, but it shows you, Tommy Dreamer went out there and treated every show like WrestleMania. Like
Yeah,
he
he
had to
did.
make every show, a 5-star show.
Mhm.
And then we have a great question from Anthony Manzano 3551, who thanks for the subscribe, but he says, do you think WWE might use TNA as a scouting scenario for a guy like Bear Bronson?
Honestly, we're seeing it happen already with Jordan Grace and Joe
Mhm.
Hendry.
Mhm.
And I think the next person to make that jump is going to be Leon Slater. Um, and some people will criticize the TNA NXT partnership and be like, "Oh, WWE is just taking what they want from TNA."
Mhm.
But I think it's more of a symbiotic relationship than people give it credit for. I
Mhm.
mean, hearing Michael Cole talk about the history of the X Division on television,
Unreal.
yeah,
This is a guy who made fun of Daniel Bryan for coming from the Indies, because
exactly.
I'm sure it was fed into his headset. But
Right.
look at what he's allowed to talk about now.
Yeah, even the simple mention of Bullet Club from Michael Cole,
Mm.
has a certain weight to it.
Oh yeah,
So I think there's a certain wrestling fan out there who will take things that WWE commentators say as gospel, right? So
sure.
for them to be able to talk about TNA is a big deal because now they're on AMC. Now they're, selling more tickets than ever, I believe.
Mm.
But in terms of a feeder system, it works both ways because then you got people in NXT like the new TNA Knockouts champion, Ariana Grace. She's over there in TNA getting reps in that she
Absolutely.
needs. You before Trick Williams was turning heads on WWE TV, he was the TNA World
Yeah.
Champion.
The
And I
Triple
think
A
that
champ. Yep.
yeah,
I love it.
that championship run elevated him to a level where he could be on the level that he is now,
Mhm.
competing to be in the elimination chamber. I think that it does kind of feel like a scouting system for WWE for sure. But when you have people like oh god, I was gonna call him Brian Pillman Jr. Lexus King,
Yes.
and Stax and Ariana Grace going over to TNA regularly, I think that's beneficial for both of them.
Hmm.
Because when you get to put
Yeah.
WWE in front of a wrestler's name, that puts more eyes on them. I
Hmm.
mean, WWE ID men's champion Cappuccino Jones being on Gremlin House Wrestling
Yeah.
in the middle of Jersey in March put more eyes on it. I mean, it definitely caught my attention.
Sure.
Initially, they had both the WWE ID champion and the Evolve champion, Jackson Drake, on that
Mhm.
card, but I guess Jackson, had his his time card filled up a little bit since he made the transition to NXT. But that show, Gremlin House is going to put on something special, I think, with the talent they have on that card.
Mhm.
Headlined by Shotzi Blackheart versus Holly Hood Haley J, with for their
Nice.
women's championship,
Yeah.
which is going to be great. But Shotzi is another person that came out of TNA, and with her being on TNA, I'm sure that had to raise some flags for WWE in the sense that, oh, look at what she can do on TV here.
Hmm.
What can she do for us? So I think TNA has always been a place that AEW and WWE can look at to be like, yes, let's bring them in. I mean,
Hmm.
look what happened this weekend in Australia. The Inspiration are all elite now,
Which is
and they,
unbelievable.
yeah, and it's great that they can debut in Australia.
Hmm.
But they were phenomenal TNA Knockouts tag team champions. So TNA is definitely exposing a lot more people to a larger audience before they get
Hmm.
to WWE and AEW. So I think it would be really dumb of WWE and AEW to not pay attention to TNA. So
Absolutely.
hopefully AEW is watching and being like, "Oh, look what we let go with Bear Bronson," you know. But
Yeah.
then maybe that opens up a door for Bear to find his way to WWE in the future.
Sure. Now, before I comment on that, we got to give a shout out to. First off, we have the El Juggalo who's joining us, who mentioned that as an indie wrestling fan, he felt that ID was very disappointing, and I can understand those feelings because you have had some people where their contract has come and gone, and you didn't see a whole lot out of it. It may not be the perfect system, but again, putting that WWE name on things gets a lot of attention, which is where I think we're kind of where that's really kind of shining, as you said. But we also want to give a thumbs up to our Breadline brother. Let me see if I can get this right here. Devin, the Tribal Chief. Yeah, we love Devin on the channel. We love all his support. Thanks for hopping in. But yeah, I feel like when the TNA and WWE thing came up, a lot of people tried to compare it to the TNA AEW partnership, which is not really a fair comparison because I feel like WWE figured it out where AEW kind of missed out on the boat, because I feel like AEW in a whole has kind of missed out on really capitalizing on Ring of Honor. And I feel like the TNA thing with AEW could have really benefited from a similar experience with TNA and Ring of Honor. But now you have WWE obviously understands that not that TNA is at a lower level. And we're back. We're having microphone. Okay. So thank you. We'll get through this. I think that all right. We're back. So again, Anthony Manzano didn't think it was disappointing, just thought that certain people don't work well with the WWE system. And that is
that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, there is something to that.
But I will say that I too have been disappointed by some of the things that WWE ID has been putting out. Because when you have someone like Zeta Steele, who is obviously a star, she was the draw for the Vanity Project on Evolve. And for some reason, she didn't make the transition over to NXT when she absolutely should have. Now, I don't know how things were behind the scenes. I don't know how she was working with creative over there. But the obvious thing is that Zeta Steele is a star. And now seeing her on AEW, I'm super excited to see where she goes next. When she has the guidance of someone like Christopher Daniels, in her ear, she can only improve from there. So, in that instance, that's totally WWE ID's loss, because, Zeta is someone that they should have snapped up right away. Am I saying that the rest of the Vanity Project are not stars? No, because Swipe Right are some of the greatest heels tag teams right now. So to see them shine is great. Jackson Drake, I'm not a huge fan of Jackson Drake, but that just shows that he's doing his job. I got to see him in person at the Colby Carino benefit show.
Oh, cool.
In South Philadelphia. And he's carrying that heat with him wherever he goes. Even in an environment that's for a good cause, like this benefit show, he's still healing it up and acting like that preppy douchebag. So I think he has a lot of potential too. I just think that Zeta was clearly the standout of that group, and that was a huge failing on WWE's part to let her go. But WWE ID also only signed 3 women in their first WWE ID class. That's a huge problem. And we haven't seen any more women other than Lainey Luck get that type of contract yet,
Mhm.
when there are so many people deserving of that spotlight, like Brittany Brooks, for example.
Mhm.
You know, I'm so surprised that Brittany Brooks hasn't been ID'd yet, but who knows if that's in the works or whatever. But yeah, there are some disappointing things about the program. I just think it's a step in the right direction, you know?
Yeah, everything they try can't be perfect, but I feel like, the phrase "get in where you fit in" is really appropriate at this point, because you have wrestlers that, okay, maybe they go to AEW, it doesn't work out. Maybe somebody goes to WWE, it doesn't work out. Now they have options, and
Yeah.
they have clear options that will get them on TV, get them seen, get their brand out there. Talk about, swipe right. Brad Baylor, he wrestled 10 minutes from my house at PPW for years. We saw him over there. So it's there are certain wrestlers that will fit certain places, and
Mhm.
I think the system will, hopefully, if working correctly, will get them where they should be. But there are balls that are dropped, as
Yeah.
you
And
clearly mentioned.
options is the key word here. There was
Mm,
a period in the 2000s where there were no options at
yeah.
all. So now that there are so many options,
Mhm.
there are so many possibilities. It's a multiverse of pro wrestling out there, you know? And the fact that we're finally able to acknowledge that so many different avenues exist
Mhm.
can only benefit, you know, all of them.
Sure.
Because, if if NXT is working with TNA, then fans of both are likely to tune in.
Mhm.
Indie promotions do this all the time, where they'll do a joint show so that they can bring in each promotion can bring in their own fans and have something bigger.
Sure.
And WrestleMania week every year, you have all of these shows coming in that you may not have heard of before,
Mhm.
but you're checking them out because Minoru Suzuki shows up. You
Yeah.
know, it's great because you have somebody like Minoru Suzuki, who is clearly an elder statesman of the business, who
Mm.
understands that you need the next generation to survive. I mean, he's wrestling next weekend in Ridgefield Park at the Mecca
Mm.
against Mike Santana. The
Insane.
that's nuts. That's a
Yeah.
very small venue in the middle of New Jersey, and
Mhm.
like Minoru Suzuki has been in the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah.
So having someone at his level realize the importance of the next generation that are on the independents today is so important, and more
Mhm.
people really need to get on that bandwagon, I think.
Sure. Now, this is something, I've been thinking about this for a while now, and you're a great example to really kind of highlight this and talk about it. So, you've been out on the West Coast. You've been to Chicago, which for a long time has been, we have these destination cities for independent wrestling, Chicago being one of them. I mean, if you're an independent wrestling fan and you don't know Logan Square, I mean, come on.
Hmm.
But you grew up in Philly. You're in Philly. We have all these cities. Do you feel that there is an oversaturation of promotions in some areas?
um I don't know if oversaturation is the word, because having more places for independent wrestlers to work and develop and improve is helpful.
Mm,
But there are some places that may not uh that may be running shows when they're not in the position to be running shows yet.
agreed.
So I think it's great that all of these promotions are popping up. I just think that they need to put a little bit more work into the presentation,
Mhm.
and the overall production of what they're doing, because um professional wrestling and independent wrestling is for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And but not everybody has the skill set to become a promoter.
Agreed.
So if you see that you're just getting into this, it's probably best to learn from those who have done this before you. Seek
Mhm.
guidance, you know. Um I think I don't remember the exact quote, but it's like the smartest person in the world doesn't have all the answers, but they know where to find the answers.
Yeah.
And that's something that these very small indie promotions really need to take to heart,
Mhm.
because even something as simple as getting a ring, like, I think a ring costs way more than people think they do, and the
Mhm.
upkeep on something like an investment like that is important.
Yeah.
But that's something that they don't think about. They just think about, oh, let's have this show with these great wrestlers at a location to be determined in the future.
Right.
Like,
Right.
don't put the cart in front of the horse
Yeah.
in this situation. Make sure you take every step as you need to take it, as thoroughly as you can.
Mhm. I love that answer, because I think I think that is a big thing. Anybody who, not everybody that thinks that they can promote a wrestling show can actually promote a wrestling show. It takes a very certain set of skills to be able to do that. You're juggling all these different things. You're juggling all these different talents, and it can be a lot. But I think that's a very important point to make when talking about, especially the number of indie promotions out there right now. There's a huge number of promotions, but that doesn't mean that they're all good promotions. Like, and it may just be the case where, again, like you said, putting the cart before the horse. Walk before you run. You
Yeah.
know,
But
so
then, you have promotions like Circle Six Wrestling out of
mm,
LA,
mhm,
where they really take the punk rock thing to the next level.
mhm.
Because, I think I've noticed this more on the West Coast than anywhere else. There are a lot of bar wrestling promotions in
That is
LA.
a thing out there. Yeah, we have not seemed to figure that out yet. Even though,
Yeah.
like, we live on the East Coast, so we should be drinking all the time because the
Yeah.
weather should make us drink all the time. So
Right.
we should be running shows in bars, but we
It's
haven't.
true.
We run shows in breweries.
Yeah,
That's
we
something
do.
we've figured out.
Yeah, that
We
is
we
pretty
we
great.
take it up a step.
Yeah. But Circle Six is a chaotic kind of place. So
Mhm,
their shows taking place in these small seedy bars really fits their aesthetic. And sometimes they have shows with rings. Like,
mhm,
sometimes they manage to find a way where they can have both a ring and a bar. I
mhm.
mean, I mentioned Hollywood Haley J. When I saw her at Circle Six, I definitely got like a whole pitcher of beer spilled on me.
Sure.
But that's part of the chaos of that environment. I mean, Delilah Doom is someone that has been on TV briefly, um, in terms of the bigger companies. Like,
Mhm,
she had a small run in TNA. She had a squash match against Nia Jax, but she's currently thriving in WoW Women of Wrestling.
mhm,
Um, and I saw her at Circle Six with her, workout 80s gimmick, working in this chaotic environment that you probably wouldn't expect it to work out in. So, in a way, having those promotions do things like that, where they need to get creative with where their shows take place, can help a wrestler really develop their character in places where you wouldn't think their character would work. So, having things like that is important.
mhm.
But it's just, Circle Six is definitely a tightly run promotion. They have their things, they have all their ducks in a row, which
Mhm.
led them to the WrestleMania week show last year at the Punk Rock Museum, which was one of the best shows of the weekend. It was so fun.
Mhm.
And the Punk Rock Museum is one of the great new attractions in Las Vegas. So to have something like that embrace wrestling the way that it has,
Yeah.
because as I've continuously said throughout this podcast, punk rock and pro wrestling have a lot of connective tissue.
Mhm.
So it's great to see the Punk Rock Museum embrace something like that.
Yeah. Um, Along those lines, shout out to Pilger Rub Brewing in Pottsville, Pennsylvania, where you can find one Anthony Deppen associated with
Yes.
the brewing company there, and they have what they call fightertainment shows, which are no ring shows in the in the bar there. So definitely, as you talked about, finding unique situations, and they have they have a big like festival every year where they have a wrestling ring out in the street, and it's a whole big thing. So if you're anywhere near that in Pennsylvania, check them out. Now, we did have a question that I thought was interesting that we can both answer, I believe. If you were a wrestler, which promotion would you wrestle for and why? From our good friend Devin, the Tribal Chief. Now, I'm assuming that he's talking about one of the bigger organizations, but I'd also love to hear your thoughts on if you were an indie wrestler, where you would want to be.
Well, I think that if I were a pro wrestler, I would be more focused on character development and storytelling.
Okay.
So I would want to be somewhere like an NXT.
Okay.
That really puts that in the forefront. I mean, knowing myself, I'm not much of an athlete, so I don't think I would have the capacity to run at the same level as AEW does with a lot of their talent. So I think with storytelling being my stronger suit, I think I would be a better fit in the WWE system. In terms of indies, I would probably either pick Power Pro Lucha, because again, storytelling, very foundational in their presentation.
Yes.
But I think I would also go for freelance wrestling in Chicago.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think they have a really good mix of I think they're like more of a mixtape pro wrestling where you get a little bit of everything. And I think something like that is very important. And freelance, they run in Logan Square Auditorium all the time. They always draw a big crowd. Mustafa Ali was a foundational talent over there. But there's so many great wrestlers that come out of freelance. So with their track record, I think I'd love to be a part of something like that.
So for me, and I just want to say, if I was a professional wrestler, I've already got my gimmick. Oh, okay. I'm going to be dressed like a member of the Mean Street Posse. I'm going to have the sleeveless sweater vest, the whole 9 yards, and my wrestling name would be Whit Waltman.
Oh, geez.
And I would be a terrible wrestler, but I would be great on the mic with comebacks. Like that would be my whole gimmick, would just be, shooting off the witty comebacks. But I think if I was a wrestler, I would probably want to go to TNA. I think that a lot of great things are happening in TNA now. I would have said Ring of Honor, but I don't like what they're doing with Ring of Honor. I don't like how Ring of Honor talents are like secondary on AEW programming, and then to watch Ring of Honor, it's behind a paywall.
Yeah,
that I don't agree with. I think if they were doing, if they used the Collision time slot for Ring of Honor, they could have something there. Because I think they do have a great foundation of wrestlers in Ring of Honor right now. So I would love to go there. If I was an indie wrestler, if not Power Pro Lucha, because again, the long-term storytelling that they're doing has really been good. Kind of picking up the pieces of former companies that did really long-term storytelling like that. But I would probably want to be up in the New England area somewhere, because you have, Beyond, Limitless, Green Mountain Wrestling in Vermont has huge shows, and I'm blanking on Grind Pro, Blitzkrieg. They're doing great things up in the New England area. So I think I would probably want to go up there. So I will say this, and this is, so we've had a number of comments in the chat about this, and I'm not sleeping on anything, just so that's clear. I'm not sleeping on anybody. But we have had a number of comments, and this is honestly, in regards to indie wrestling, we definitely need to address
Yeah.
Juggalo Championship Wrestling. Now,
Sure.
there was another comment made about the storytelling in
Mhm.
Juggalo Championship Wrestling and the fact that they're running a weekly show on YouTube. So, you know, Juggalo Championship Wrestling kind of went from being like this sort of, I mean, it was like a joke. You know, they did a lot of like comedy spots and things like that, and then it became like a big part of you know, their big festival every year. You know, and now, I mean, they've really gotten serious with it.
Yeah.
You know, so what are your thoughts on a company like Juggalo Championship Wrestling?
I think you nailed it right on the head. That progression is definitely how I saw JCW before. It was always great to see the ICP be so big into wrestling and using their
Mm-hmm.
platform to elevate this art form that they love so much. And I think now they're finally catching up with the level of passion that ICP has had for pro wrestling and the
Absolutely.
production value necessary to run a proper indie.
Mm-hmm.
God, just look at the talent that they bring in. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many good people. I mean,
Oh yeah.
right before Matt Cardona went back to WWE, wasn't he a champion in JCW? Uh,
I
uh,
believe so. He was. I mean, I'm sure he was there. Yeah,
yeah, I
I'm not
mean,
a
he
hundred.
was
I'm not
everywhere.
100% sure. Like, I mean that. Yeah, that there's probably not a company that he hasn't wrestled for that's some showing somewhere.
Yeah, but it's just like Vampiro being there,
Mm-hmm.
before definitely a sign. Somebody, who has been around the business a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
uh being drawn to a promotion like that has to say something.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they have a weekly show on YouTube, which is not easy to do,
No.
you know, um, you know, as I'm sure our opinion city overlords know, it is difficult to keep up that level of commitment, but consistency is key. By having something like that regularly occur
Mm-hmm.
uh is a sign of dedication. you
Mm-hmm.
know um I know that Vince Russo may sway people one way or another, but the fact that they're willing to invest in storytelling enough to bring in a controversial figure like Vince Russo
Mm-hmm.
is a sign to their commitment.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely not downplaying the Juggalos in this situation for sure.
No, definitely not. And I will say this. You know, as far as going from where it was at to where it's at now. I mean, you know, the not downplaying the importance of the shows at the gathering of the Juggalos every year, because they were. I mean, like you said, they were big shows. They bring in a lot of names. We just talked about Colt Cabana. Officer Colt
Mhm.
Cabana has been
Yep.
a long-standing participant in JCW, but I feel like where they're at now, and as you said, you know, a weekly YouTube show is not easy. But for everything that you may think about JCW, for everything they are or they aren't, their weekly shows on YouTube are extremely well produced and professional.
Mhm.
Like they are, I mean, they're right up there with any of the other indie companies out there that are streaming, or you know, they put on a professional looking show, and they have their own style. I mean, you look at the ring and the entrance, and it is you instantly know you are watching JCW when you turn that on. It's got that look to it, and it really does have great wrestling. They got a
Yeah.
lot of
You know,
very talented wrestlers in there.
JCW Lunacy is probably up there with Wrestling Open as like
Mm,
a must see indie wrestling show of the week.
mhm.
It's definitely something to pay attention to for sure.
So in the vein of JCW, and you have mentioned a number of companies today. Are there any other companies that you would like to take some time and spotlight?
Oh man, there's so many.
I know you have a list, so let's
I
talk
do have a
about them.
list. So
All right.
we did talk about Labor of Love. I did
Mm-hmm.
mention freelance. AAW Pro in Chicago was a place that I went to very often. You know, I saw a great match there. Sammy Callahan versus Candice LeRae in a cage, I believe.
Oh wow.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, I miss when Candice LeRae really got to like let loose and really
Mm-hmm.
show her in-ring acumen.
Yeah.
And then to go against someone like Sammy Callahan who can take a beating and give one just as well. Oh
Mm-hmm.
god, AAW has been the home of such phenomenal wrestlers, and I believe the former Cameron Grimes, Trevor Lee, is their champion right now. But you have AAW, I'll even say original, Tommaso Ciampa returning very soon.
Mm-hmm.
But you have people like Samurai Del Sol, Trey Miguel, you know, Dijak and Keith Lee used to frequent this place a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When I went, Ray Phoenix and Penta were staples of the promotion. They're definitely a place to look out for if you're in the Chicagoland area. Prestige Wrestling
Oh,
out
of
of
course.
Oregon.
Yes.
When I moved to the West Coast, they put on some of the greatest matches that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I went to Roseland, their home venue in Portland, one Memorial Day weekend, you know, just to see Maki Ito and
Mm.
Miyu
Oh.
Yamashita, and they just had, oh god, um, they took someone like Alan Angels and 5 of the Dark Order and turned
Mm-hmm.
him into one of the most hated heels in all of independent wrestling. Like that's got to say something for this company. It's unfortunate that their final event is on February 20th.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it will be streaming on YouTube. They usually do that with
Mm-hmm.
their shows. But you know, once if they're not, once that show's available, you need to watch it. I'm very sad that a company like Prestige is closing down, especially since, you know, I guess I would have considered them a super indie as well,
Mm-hmm.
just because the level of talent that came through there. I mean, Kevin Blackwood versus Roderick Strong in LA
Mm-hmm.
was such a barn burner. But then to see Speedball Mike Bailey versus Tyler Breeze,
Hmm.
where
Oh,
in
crazy.
the match they had a walk off a la Zoolander, was just so good. You know, it definitely took the variety show aspect of pro wrestling and put that front and center. Prestige
Mm-hmm.
was great up and down. Hood Slam in Northern
Oh,
California.
yeah.
You know, they are so weird. They're so weird in the best way. Like
Yeah.
some of the things that they do are out there, but they're so fun. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it I've wanted to go to one of their shows forever. I've seen some of them streaming, but like they're just great. Definitely worth checking out.
Mm-hmm.
West Coast Pro, they've done some shows joint with Prestige in the past, and they
Mm-hmm.
definitely bring in a ton of great people. I mean, Vinny Massaro is someone who's there a lot. I see that they have Aja Kong coming
Mm.
in for
Wow.
WrestleMania week. Uh,
Very
that
cool.
should be a really good time because Aja Kong, obviously one of the greats in Joshi.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I mentioned Circle Six out of LA. I'm pretty confident that they're going to be running WrestleMania week at the Punk Rock Museum again. But you know, definitely worth keeping an eye out,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they have a faction like the PWO in their ranks, with the Tara Zepp and Lindsay Snow and oh my god, uh, this is gonna be really bad. Sue Young, yeah.
There you go.
The
You got it.
the three of them are a force to be reckoned with for sure. Warrior Wrestling in Chicago. They started out as a promotion that was being used as a fundraiser for a Chicagoland area high school,
Mm.
where the students were like shooting the footage, and the principal was like the authority figure, and
Oh,
you know
wow.
they
That's
brought
great.
in they brought in some insane talent. I mean, Bandito, Flamita, Rey Mysterio, Jordan Grace,
Mhm.
the Rascals. I've seen such incredible talent come out of Warrior Wrestling and come through Warrior Wrestling. Now they're back under uh Pro Wrestling Ventures on socials.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know if they're associated with the school anymore, but they've still had some really great shows running out of breweries in the Chicagoland area. So
Mhm.
highly recommend checking them out. I uh yeah, and I mean, you guys talk about Philadelphia area indies all the time. So I
Yeah.
mean, like you can hear Opinion City talk about places like Royalty Wrestling and Power Pro Lucha
Mhm.
all day long. But since coming back to the Philadelphia area, those two promotions have become some of my favorite wrestling experiences. So I know I just threw a whole lot at you, but
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So just to follow up on that. So we've talked about Power Pro Lucha. Power Pro Lucha obviously is a Lucha Fun wrestling company out of Philadelphia. They run at the U.S. Arlen Specter Squash Center, which is the most insane thing to think of, but it is the actual national training center for the national squash team. But they have amazing shows there, long-term storytelling, your masked characters. They have brought back trios tournaments. It's a spiritual successor to the idea of Chikara back in the day. So just a lot of fun there. And Royalty Wrestling, if you are anywhere near Sellersville, Pennsylvania, you need to find a place called the VFW Forest Lodge. It is where Royalty Wrestling runs, and Royalty Wrestling is a cross between professional wrestling and medieval times.
Mhm.
They are a medieval wrestling organization. Their champion, who is named Castle Rolfenstein, does not have a championship belt. He holds the Holy Grail,
Mhm.
complete with its own case. And the newly crowned Knights of the Squared Circle, their tag team champions. Shout out to Brother Bedlam and Dylan Cross of the Gatekeepers, who you can see on episodes of Opinion City. They instead of title belts, they won shields. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great crowd. They're averaging over 300, which is great. They're packing that building out pretty soon. They're going to outgrow that building. But those are two great organizations. Kaiju Big Battle. I love weird
Mhm.
wrestling. I love things that are just like not of the norm. If you've never seen Kaiju Big Battle, it is, imagine if a wrestling company was monsters destroying a city and each other. It's
Mhm.
incredible fun. Mystery Wrestling up in Canada.
Yeah.
They another organization that does a lot of crazy things. I cannot speak to the deathmatch wrestling because that is one aspect that I'm not completely familiar with. I went to my first death match, CZW Cage of Death, and that was interesting. That was eye opening. We in a future episode we will have Danny Lee on because she is what I would call our resident deathmatch expert, following deathmatch wrestling, following
Yeah.
GCW. So in a later episode, we will get her opinion on all of this because her deathmatch perspective. And if anybody follows her socials, Danny Lee Talks Wrestling, you know that she is 100% independent wrestling. She is a big supporter and a big friend of independent wrestling. But yeah, there's a lot of great promotions. Wherever you live, find a promotion because I guarantee you there is a promotion near you somewhere, no matter where you live. Do what you can to support that indie promotion because you never know when you're going to be watching the stars of tomorrow. And even if you aren't, you're watching wrestlers who are getting in the ring and doing what they do to entertain you. So support them, even if it's a small promotion. And big shout out to the promotion that I used to work with in Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania. It is the Pennsylvania Championship Wrestling Alliance. Big shout out to GI Bear and all the good folks there. They just had abandoned from AEW in November at their November show. So
Nice.
they do get some names from time to time, but again, just kind of keeping the tradition alive of, you know, local promotions giving people a chance. And speaking of local promotions giving people a chance, Royalty Wrestling is run by some folks that also run the Jawbreakers Wrestling Academy. It is the only wrestling school in the Lehigh Valley. So if you live in the Lehigh Valley of Pennsylvania, the Allentown area, and you want to become a professional wrestler, jawbreakersacademy.com. Check them out. Definitely highly recommended. Good guys who really know the business and know how to teach you to be a professional wrestler and will care about your career. And the nice thing about it is then you might get to be in Royalty Wrestling.
Yeah, I got to go to my first Royalty Wrestling show recently where the Gatekeepers won their championships. And it was a great time. I had a blast. Shout out to Deuce Ex Machina.
Oh yes, another one of our good friends of the show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to his involvement in the Capture the Flag match.
Oh,
Right?
listen,
Is that
all
what's
right.
happening?
So, Royalty Wrestling comes up with matches that you may have never seen before in a wrestling ring. So they have a Capture the Flag match. Usually it is, I believe, 6 participants, and they win a match to qualify for it. And then there's 2 poles on opposite corners. One has the flag. You have to get the flag down and get it up on the other pole. Not so easy when you're in there with 5 other people, and it is just madness. It is one of the most fun wrestling matches you'll ever see. You can find Royalty Wrestling on YouTube, and you can watch the Capture the Flag match from last year. It's incredible, but they constantly come up with new match types. They did a tower defense match, so you have so many people starting in the ring, and then you have to throw people out of the ring just like a Royal Rumble. But when you throw them out, they don't get eliminated. You have to keep them out of the ring. So the goal is to be the only person in the ring for a count of 10. So you're defending the ring. It's incredible. They had what they called a 2 birds, 1 stone match, where it was a triple threat match, but you had to pin both of your other opponents at the same time to win. Like they're constantly coming up with crazy stuff. Yeah, it's so much fun, and they have one of the hottest indie crowds I have seen in a long time, because these people are into it from beginning to end. They have their favorites. They come and cheer. It's incredible. They really have good fans there. But I'm sure that there is a great independent company near you, so definitely check that out. So we have only scratched the surface in talking about the state of independent wrestling, and we could go on all day here, but I think it's best that we save the rest of our conversation for another future episode, possibly when we can have Danny on. But we do have a number of subjects to tackle in the realms of indie wrestling, and there's so much indie wrestling now that we could talk for days.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we didn't plan this. I didn't talk about this ahead of time, but I'm just gonna throw this out there to you and see what you've got. So, if you were introducing somebody to indie wrestling,
okay,
who would be 5 wrestlers that you would tell them to search out and watch?
From right now, or
yeah. If you right now they wanted to see somebody, you wanted to show them what indie wrestling looks like right now, who are they gonna watch?
Okay. First person that came to mind was Gringo Loco, based out of Chicago, one of the great luchadors of America. Cannot say enough good things about Gringo Loco. You can find him in Warrior Wrestling, you can find him in GCW, you could find him in so many places. But he's definitely an important figure in indie wrestling right now. Let's see. Gosh, I mean, even though he is has been ID'd by WWE, Aaron Rourke again is someone that's definitely worth watching.
Mhm.
You know, he doing stuff that nobody else is doing right now. Oh gosh. Shotzi Blackheart. I know she's a bigger name,
Mhm.
but in the same vein that Matt Cardona was using uh his platform to elevate independent wrestling, I think Shotzi
Mhm.
is doing that as well now that Matt Cardona isn't around. So I think she has earned the mantle of indie god from Matt Cardona.
Mm.
Um, so I think she's someone to watch. Okay, that was 3.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. God, this is so hard because there's so many good wrestlers right
I
now.
know. I know. It's
And
well, it's just I mean, it's a great problem to have.
it is a great problem to have. You're absolutely right. Um, oh God, Matt Makowski, Matt Mako.
Matt Mako.
Matt Mako is a great talent and
Mhm.
so versatile. You know,
Mhm.
when you see him in Labor of Love, he's not the same as seeing him in Power Pro Lucha or any other promotion that
Yeah.
you see him in. So I think he's somebody that will be making a much bigger splash in the coming months. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not even going to say years because if you're not paying attention to Matt Mako, then there's something wrong with you. He has a match at Josh Barnett's Bloodsport uh during WrestleMania week coming up.
Oh, yeah.
So y'all really need to be there. Um oh god, there's so many and I feel bad if I don't name them all. But I guess I'm going to say Jack Cartwheel.
Nice.
Um Jack Cartwheel is an aerial expert. You know,
Mhm.
his lineage. I believe it was his grandfather or great grandfather who innovated the cartwheel. Um, but Jack is somebody that I've seen all over Southern California.
Mhm.
If you've been watching AAA, he had some great showings there. He's also WWE ID'd, but like he's still making towns and making a huge spectacle every time he steps in the ring. Definitely
Mhm.
someone to look out for there. Ooh, man, there's so
Awesome.
many good
Yeah,
wrestlers,
there
Ralph.
there
It's
are.
so hard.
I know. I felt bad asking it, but yeah, it's so tough. So a couple shout outs on my end, just some things. Number one, shout out to Australian wrestler Shaza McKenzie, who just became a U.S. citizen. So
Good for
congratulations
her.
on that, because she was, I know she was having some visa issues there for a long time, but she's down in the New Orleans area now, and definitely one to watch. Now we did have a comment, which brings me to my next shout out. But what are you guys'
Oh,
thoughts on Nikki Blackheart?
listen, I my introduction to Nikki Blackheart was the clips on Instagram that would just pop up on my reels
Mhm.
because what was it that she was a cross between Paige and Rhea Ripley
Oh,
essentially.
okay, yeah.
But after seeing a little bit more of her work, I'm impressed because she's come a long way in a very short amount of time.
Mhm.
You know, she has a tryout with WWE coming up.
Mhm.
It'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. But you know, she's someone to pay attention to for sure. I think there's a lot of upside for Nikki. She has a great look.
Mhm.
She's good in the ring, powerful, powerful woman.
Yeah,
I mentioned Rhea Ripley and Paige, but like I think Nikki could fill the void that Jordan Grace left once she had left the Indies.
yeah.
You know, I think she could definitely be one of those um, versatile talents. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to see where Nikki Blackheart goes.
Yeah, so definitely a shout out to all of the recent WWE tryout invitees, including one Notorious Mimi, good friend
Yeah.
of the show, who is getting another shot after NXT not necessarily going the way she had hoped the first time, and really coming back to the indies, and really working hard to get back to this spot again. So but congratulations to all of the recent WWE tryout invitees. Well, we have given you a lot to think about. We have given you a lot of indie promotions to check out. We have talked about a lot of indie wrestlers to check out. So if you have not made the list, go back and watch this episode again and write everything down, because now you know it's coming, and you have enough to watch and enough to keep you busy for quite some time, at least until our next episode, which interestingly enough, next week, we will be talking to Eric Stevens of SSP Wrestling in New Jersey, who we were originally supposed to have on the show some weeks ago, and through the miracles of life, that did not happen, but here we are. So we will be talking to him next week about SSP Wrestling really coming onto the scene, getting to really trying to become one of the big indies in a state that's got quite a few independent things going on. They may even rival Pennsylvania in the amount of indie promotions that are going on. But we'll be talking to Eric Stevens of SSP. On the flip side of that, when we head to March, we've got some dates we can let you know about. We have already announced that on March 8th, we will be talking to Harleen Lopez. Now, fingers crossed, because again, life happens. We get it. We've tried this a couple times, but we're hoping that this one's the one. So March 8th, Harleen Lopez. We can also announce today that on March 15th, you saw her in a guest spot last week in Bear Bronson's interview, but we will be full on interviewing Gabby Forza next week, March 15th. So hopefully she has her homework assignment done, and I will have my homework assignment done from our episode. If you did not see that last week, go back and check out Bear Bronson's interview, his top 5 horror movies, where Bear and Gabby give me a challenge and I give them a challenge. Movies to watch for our next interview. But go back anyways, because it's a great interview. We're super proud of that one. Bear Bronson, an amazing talent. If you don't become a Bear Bronson fan after watching that episode, I don't know what's wrong with you, but go back and check that out. And a number of the guests we've named today all have episodes on the channel, so be sure to check them out. So Ben, first off, let's talk about, you have anything interesting coming up?
I mean, the most interesting thing is probably my birthday on February 20th, which coincides with Labor of Love, Love Hate, which is sold out, so you cannot get tickets any longer, unfortunately. However, if you were lucky enough to get a ticket, you're in for an incredible show. I mean, you have the Death Riders coming in fresh off their loss in Australia. So we're gonna see a bald Wheeler Yuta in action.
Well, unless
if
he's
he doesn't
got the
bring
hat
that
on.
beanie, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Ali Catch is on the card. Cheeseburger. Cheeseburger is facing Leon Ruff, former NXT North American champion.
Yeah.
Just so many great talent on that card. Once it's available for streaming, highly recommend checking that out. And I am so excited to see wrestling on my birthday, because that's one of my favorite ways to spend my birthday.
Absolutely. So where can people find you online? What do you got going on online these days?
Yeah, so I co-host a podcast called Time to Party, where we look at time travel media, and we look at time travel media and examine whether it's worth your time. I swear I speak a little bit better there, maybe, usually.
Oh, you keep the good stuff for there. I see how it goes.
With time travel, all the good wrestling stuff.
I got you.
I'm also on social media, wherever wherever I am. I'm at Silverio 20. If you can't find it, I'm not there. So,
Yes.
but Letterboxd, Instagram,
Wow.
X, Blue Sky,
Yeah.
all that good stuff. Find me and let's talk about stuff.
Amazing. So definitely make sure you're following Ben. Make sure you are following the Time to Party podcast as well, because who doesn't love time travel media? I mean, seriously, it's like the best. So definitely.
Our 200th episode is coming up in the very near future, where we will be talking about the original Back to the Future.
Oh, listen, make sure you check that out, because as the Undertaker said, Back to the Future is the perfect movie. That came out of his mouth. I bring that up all the time because I'm a huge Back to the Future fan. So that's exciting. So definitely check that out. So you can also find Ben here on the channel. This coming Wednesday, we have another episode of The List coming out with guest Ben Silverio and another one of his great topics. So Wednesday night at 8 p.m. here on the channel. Check that out. And definitely check out the live interviews that Ben has been doing with Parmesan at some of the live events we've been attending. There will definitely be more of that in the future. We may see Ben join us on our upcoming Road to Anniversario show for Power Pro Lucha, where we get you up to speed on everything that's been announced so far. And I can tell you, keep an eye out on the channel, because if you're a fan of Power Pro Lucha, at the end of our Road to Anniversario episode, we are going to make an announcement regarding Power Pro Lucha that you are not going to want to miss. And when you hear it, you're not going to believe it. This one is big. Ben already knows, so don't shake him down, but he knows, and it's big. We're excited for this one. So definitely make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Definitely comment on all of our videos. We love to see comments from our viewers. If you're looking to get some bonus content, get involved in some cool stuff that we've got planned, definitely check out our Patreon. We are over at patreon.com at Opinion City Pod, which anywhere you can find us, just like Ben, we're at Opinion City Pod. So this has been really great, just scratching the surface on indie wrestling, because we're indie wrestling guys. We are an indie wrestling podcast, and we love chatting up some indie wrestling.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Ralph.
Oh man, it's been my pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. So that is going to do it for this episode of the Opinion City Podcast. For Ben F. Silverio, I'm King Ralph. And remember, kindness is free, so be kind to each other. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you next time.
That's Opinion City. New episodes live every Sunday on YouTube. And to our Patreon members, thank you for supporting independent wrestling media. We'll see you next time.